Hello there, welcome to the How to Help Pro YouTube channel. I am Basta and today I would like to take a trip together with me in the world of history. Before we go any further, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and maybe find some other things that you would like to know how to do it if you haven't subscribed already. Well, today I would like to talk to you about history and how you have to understand that the mainstream history lessons are not always the right lessons. We are here talking, or what are we talking now about? Well, just to explain some of what is happening or what is being told in the mainstream media, you have to take it with a little pinch of salt, sometimes a canister of salt. Our first two persons that we're going to talk about will be Napoleon Bonaparte and Leopold II. If you want to know where my accent comes from, I'll just say it. I don't even know anymore myself. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I guess, well, I'm Belgian and more clear, I'm Flemish. In history, near the town where I was born, there are a lot of stories in a neighboring village that Napoleon Bonaparte was visiting there at one point. Is that a true story, yes or no? Well, to be honest, not likely. Every small town in Belgium, in Flanders, has had those kind of stories, and in reality, nah, none of them are real. Well, there is always a story that he was a small guy. There is even a complex named after him, the Napoleon complex. But was he really that small? Well, to be honest, he was about 1 meter 68, and for today's standard, that is indeed not one of the tallest guys. But in his time, the average height of the French was about 1 meter 60. If you know that you had to be at least 1 meter 65 to join the army, then, well, he was more than average, of course. But why is it that we still think that he was a small guy? Well, for that, we need to go and look into the French language. They do like to use the term le petit, or the small. That was a base for a lot of foreign cartoonists to say that Napoleon was small. But he was not at all in that case. Well, yeah, being small for today, but more likely the average height or more than the average height in his day. Another point was that in books and historical documents, they give his height in foot. And the French foot was different from the English foot, and English foot is still being lost or being used now. Rest is all lost in translation. In older age, he still did grow horizontally, meaning growing bigger, growing fatter, and that could have been the cause of his death. He died of stomach cancer in 1821. And another thing, what we sometimes have, they say he was a big French guy. In reality, well, he was not French originally. He was born an Italian immigrant on the Isle of Corsica. Now, if you say in Corsica that you're French, well, you better make sure that you go away. And on the other hand, was this indeed the case? Was he indeed Italian origin, yes or no? Well, to be honest, that's also not really that clear because the country of Italy didn't exist in that time. What we do know that is when he started to the rise of fame, his mother was constantly telling everybody wanted to hear pour vous que ça dure with a heavy French, Corsican accent. And as long as it remains, that is what it would happen, or that is what it means. One more thing, Napoleon went to school all by himself, meaning no family around him. He went to the north of France and he was being bullied the whole time. He was a guy who knew what he wanted, couldn't quite explain because he didn't speak French in the beginning, but he always wanted more. Because of always wanting more and in the end becoming the Emperor of France, it was believed that this stemmed his term of Napoleon complex. Yeah, he was just a scholar who understood the old writings of the old Greeks, and other people came before him, and perhaps he him conquering France, he was maybe just the right guy on the right place. He conquered France, conquered Europe, and all just over a few years. The higher they fly, the lower they fall. Pour vous que ça dure. And then Leopold too. As a Belgian, I could say yes, but I don't really like the mainstream media about him itself. Not because I'm Belgian, but I do like to have the correct historical representation. Leopold Louis Philippe Marie Victor became king in 1865 and was king for exactly 43 years when he passed away on the anniversary of his ascension. It's not that rare of that number of years on the throne, but yet until now he's one of the Belgian kings who stayed the longest on the throne. His nickname in Belgium was the Builder King. He was a king and he was also the owner of the Congo Free State. And that was a private project. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but yet, on the other hand, in every publication about him, they always say that he was a brute and he committed a lot of crimes against humanity. To be honest, was he a saint? Nah, not at all. But did he do all the things that they have said? Well, there's a lot of times that they say that he was responsible for the decline in birds, that he cut off the hands of people who didn't meet the quota. But on the other hand, that was just journalists saying that. A little more thinking about what happened. Well, the main reason why it was being said by the journalist is that, yeah, they wanted to have something. The foreign press picked up on this because being a country that large of a state in private ownership, the fact that if he would not be able to afford the country anymore, if he'd go bankrupt, then he had made some arrangements that Congo would go to France. Of course, France, being a large colonial empire, England, United Kingdom, also being a large colonial empire, England wanted to have it for themselves. And the fact that they want to have the riches for themselves, well, cartoonists, even back then, they were kind of a bit, how would I say, cutting corners, trying to make the public believe itself. So, what is it about those cutting of hands? Well, Leopold himself said the cutting of the hands, well, that's one of the most stupid things that you could ever do, as when you do it, then you have a lot less rubber. And if you cut off their hands, they can't work anymore. The severing of the workers' hands was achieved with, well, they said, international authority, they said that the main reason why is they were sometimes cut off by the force publique, which was the privateers, the private soldiers of the country. And they were made for the account because of every shot that they fired, they had to bring back the hands of the victims. But unfortunately, the force publique did like to go hunting. So what did they do? Is they shot, they shoot, they killed, and cut off the hands of the people around it. Trip to the villages, everything was solved, and the number of bullets was still correct. Why didn't they say anything about it? Well, hunting, private army, and the country had a lot of foreigners, a lot of Belgians who were there for the adventure and not being able to be honest, not being able to rule the country. They were responsible for the country itself, but they were unexperienced and sometimes just people that knew people who were able to get a job over there. Was it wrong of Leopold to trust them? Yes. Was he responsible for the ones cutting hands? Maybe, but not really. But he didn't do it himself, as certain cartoons would make us believe and certain news articles would make us believe. Was he the brute? He said, or they said. Maybe. Was he responsible? Yes, you can say that he was responsible. He was the owner of the country, but are you then responsible for what happens inside your country, for on your land? He was the owner of a large country in Africa. He just trusted the people who were working for them. But then, on the other hand, is somebody responsible for everything that happens underneath him? That's always the main question, of course. Did you like this content? Did you like the look into history? Comment, press like and subscribe to the How to Pro channel, How to Help Pro channel. And this was the first part of Understanding History.